בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים, שבוע טוב, שבוע מבורך. Baruch Hashem, we are continuing our series of the Iggeret HaGra, where the Gaon of Vilna is teaching us one week after another in each one of his sentences about how to live, what to live for, how to deal with the difficult circumstances of the days that we live in today, where there's terrorism in the streets, anti-Semitism everywhere, and of course, lots of confusion and ignorance that's out there. Tonight's shiur, Be'ezrat Hashem, is going to be for Refuah Shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Avi Mori David ben Nesriya, Doris Bat Jora, and also for Lehavdil for Atzlacha Rabba and Big Mazal Tov for the new couple that's getting married tonight, Yeshua ben Bela and Rivka bat Michelle. Kadosh Baruch Hu yivarech otam bekol mikol kol, big mazal tov, where they have a lot of atzlacha, zera shel yikaima, and build a bait ne'eman b'Yisrael. Also for the parents as well, of course, our dear friends, and also for a bracha v'atzlacha to Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha, Shaul ben Farzaneh, Amir ben Shaheen, and all of Am Yisrael, and all of the righteous Noahides, especially the ones that continue to work on themselves, watching our shiurim, continuing to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the best of their abilities, each day learning more, doing more, to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we're all obligated to do. Now, of course, the Gaon of Vilna did not skip a beat with the letter that he wrote. One rebuke after another to the people that he loved the most, as we learned from our sages that if you when you rebuke somebody, that's only because you love them. You're not rebuking them because you hate them. Rebuke that comes from hate is not rebuke, but rather just simple animosity and disagreement. But when you truly love somebody, you are very happy to fulfill the mitzvah of ochech tochech et amitecha, that you must rebuke your people. And of course, when you do love Am Yisrael, when you do love the Torah itself, you're happy to receive a rebuke, even though it's sometimes difficult to do. And of course, all of the shiurim that we do, part of them is to rebuke ourselves, part of them is to rebuke different students that are watching, and Baruch Hashem, the event that we had last week, those that came, Baruch Hashem, had a extraordinary experience. I know I myself enjoyed it a lot, meeting a lot of new faces, Baruch Hashem, that came from different parts of the country, from California, from New York, from Pennsylvania, from far places in Florida. People drove 4 hours each way just to come and join us. People came from Texas. Baruch Hashem, a lot of wonderful people that came, got chizuk, got experience of a lifetime. And those of you that missed it, I can't tell you that you'll have the same event soon. But we will have another event at some point, Be'ezrat Hashem, after Pesach. But the same event will never be. Why? Because each event is of its own. Each event has a life of its own. And the people that are in the crowd, throughout all of the years that I've done it, always tell me, I felt like you were talking to me. And of course, people that watch online also have the similar siyata dishmaya, where they get their own personal musar and messages when they watch the shiurim, especially if they're looking for the truth. But there's nothing like seeing a shiur live. Just because you're part of it, it literally takes a life of its own. So Baruch Hashem, we had the great event, successful event last week. A couple of things that Baruch Hashem, to give you updates on. The campaign for Purim, Baruch Hashem, was a very big success. We reached hundreds and hundreds of people, helping many people literally put food on their table that they simply would have not had. The situation in Israel is deteriorating by the day. as quickly as the prices are getting higher and the heresy and stupidity by the Israeli government is crossing all borders and all lines, such as the difficulty of the poor Jews that are in Eretz Yisrael, especially the ones that have Yirat Shamayim, the ones that are Avrechim, learning Torah and doing everything possible. And Baruch Hashem, we had the merit to once again help hundreds of people, and the biggest campaign of the year, the Kimcha, the Pischa, the Pesach campaign, is upon us. We haven't had the time to set up the campaign yet online. As I always tell you, these things take a lot of time, and this time of the year is also tax season, which takes a exorbitant amount of time to deal with. But we're getting phone calls and messages that are literally getting worse by the day, especially with the new terrorism that's upon us. As we learned from our sages, that when a tzaddik leaves, the protection leaves with him. Just like we learned when Yaakov, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, each time they left, especially during that time where there was a limited amount of righteousness in the world, tragedy hit. And of course, we know that these are similar things happen in the world when big tzaddikim leave us. Rav Kanievsky, throughout all of the years that he was learning Torah non-stop in Bnei Brak was, Baruch Hashem, protected. Whether it was Saddam Hussein, Imach Shimo v'zichro, that literally targeted civilians with his missiles. Not a single missile touched Bnei Brak. Certainly, due to the merit of the tzaddikim that are there. Needless to say, also Rav Kanievsky, who promised in the name of the Torah that nothing will hurt the people of Bnei Brak. But unfortunately, now that the tzaddik has left us and is now learning Torah with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Gan Eden, that protection is no more. And we already see that since he passed, there are several terrorist attacks that in Israel that we've never seen before. Simply, the terrorism of yesterday is old-fashioned. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is raising the ante once again. After bringing a incurable virus that caused a lot of hardship and difficulties for Am Yisrael, a lot of confusion, a lot of heresy, a lot of people going against the rabbis. This coronavirus and all of its fruits that came out of it, the rotten fruits that came from it, not only caused physical death, but also caused a lot of spiritual death for people that went against rabbis that disagreed with them about how to deal with it. And needless to say, the situation that didn't get any better with financially. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost their main source of income in their businesses. A lot of people suffered throughout the last couple of years. And if that's not bad enough, you also had a new government put into place, run by lefty, liberal, anti-Torah, anti-Semitic people that are running the Israeli government right now. Literally, it's no different than having Haman himself as president. As Rav Meir Eliyahu Sheikhye calls him Liber Haman. Liber Haman is a Rasha Merusha that hates the Torah and literally had campaign videos in Russian having the similar words and overall language in general that the Nazis have. Only that he was catering to his Nazi followers, many of them unfortunately from Ukrainian descent. The very same Ukraine that is at war right now and being punished by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is unfortunately not as simple as people make it seem to be. This is not a happenstance. Ukraine is not being punished for no reason. Of course, this is not to say that we agree with terrorizing people and murdering people for no reason, but again, Nothing happens for no reason, as we've learned already time and time again. HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world with a set of rules that he even has for himself. And most importantly is the reward and punishment. Rewarding the righteous and punishing the wicked. And of course, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's patience is unlimited, and there are endless examples of when HaKadosh Baruch Hu would wait decades, if not even centuries, before he would punish a certain nation, a certain people, for things that they've done. Individually, there are times that he would let a wicked person do all of the bad things that they want to do for a period of time, years even, and then eventually bring the wrath of God on him that no one can help him from. So as the Rambam writes in Ilchot Tshuva and in other places, that there are some severe punishments in the Torah, but the worst possible punishment that a person can get is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu removes the person's ability to do tshuva. There is a slightly lesser horrible punishment of removing the person's willpower to do tshuva, but meaning that there's no help from Shamayim for that person to do tshuva. But there's something that's completely worse, that is literally unfixable, which is removing the ability of a person to do tshuva, meaning that he doesn't want it. This is a rare exception. Don't ask me if you are one of those people, because if you're watching my shiurim, if you're even thinking about tshuva, surely you're not getting that punishment. Even if it's very difficult for you to do tshuva, if you're even thinking about doing tshuva, then surely you're not getting that punishment. But the point being is there are certain people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will allow them to do a lot of damage, literally using them as the stick to hit his people, because his people sinned. Many people like to complain about the government and the liberals and so on. But as our own very dear Rabbi Ephraim said in the shiur this past week, stop complaining about the Palestinians. Stop complaining about the Zionist government. Stop complaining about all of these weak people. This is all a punishment because we haven't done tshuva. All of those people are simply sticks that Hashem is using. He could simply eliminate them tomorrow and replace them with tzaddikim, or he can simply continue to use them. But complaining about those people as if that can change anything is not going to do anything. We only mention it in shiurim simply to educate people that there's more than meets the eye. There's more to the world than what perhaps they're getting from their liberal media that's out there, that's picture perfect, and makes everything seem as if the good guys are winning, the bad guys are losing, and it's not exactly all that. So the point is that you have a situation where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is upping the ante. We have a horrible situation going on right now where in the recent years, the Arab terrorists, Yimach Shimam v'Zichram, would instill so much fear on the people in Israel that they could literally walk into a store or be in the middle of the street with a disposable knife, with a butter knife, and literally kill people because everyone is so scared. Fulfilling the curse in Parashat Bechukotai, in Parashat Kitavo, that there is a fear that Hashem puts on the Jewish people that could make even 1,000 of them not be able to handle a single terrorist. So it's not because of power, but rather because of a certain punishment from Shamayim to make them fear. And even have a government as stupid as the one that we have right now that tells the soldiers that are supposed to protect the people that when they shoot the terrorist, the very same terrorist that killed people, they'll actually go to jail. So now instilling fear even on the protection. So you can't rely on the government. You can't rely on the IDF. You can't rely on the police force. You literally cannot rely on anything other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And of course, when you have the majority of people not observant in Torah and mitzvot, it's very hard for them to get their head around this. So now that Hashem upped the ante even more, and the terrorists are now walking around the middle of the street, driving in motorcycles, riding motorcycles and cars with automatic weapons sticking out of the windows and the motorcycles, and literally shooting everybody in sight like a movie, like a video game, and just killing whoever they can. It's literally just by the kindness of Hashem that they didn't kill a few hundred people rather than, instead of just a few people. It's literally the kindness of Hashem. The amount of damage that they wanted to cause over the last couple of attacks in Bnei Brak, in Hadera, all of these things that are happening. Literally, they're walking around with automatic weapons that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would simply allow the world to run without his protection on it, you could literally have hundreds of bodies, chas v'shalom, hundreds of bodies piled up and no one even knowing what to do, because even again, like I said, the protection is scared for their own lives. But not from they're not even scared from the terrorists. They're scared of the bigger terrorists, which is the government itself. So a scared soldier is a dead soldier. And unfortunately, this is what we have in the world today. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu showing us that it's up to us. It's up to us to love Am Yisrael more than they love themselves. It's up to us to do more for Am Yisrael than what they think is even capable, what's possible. There are many people that are struggling financially right now because all of the things that are happening now in Israel are not all of what's going on, obviously. We also have the 53 billion shekels that the Israeli government is giving to the Palestinian terrorists. This $53 billion will surely is going to allow them to increase their weapons. Perhaps that's how they're getting their automatic weapons now. I know that somebody asked me, can you quote a source for where the 53 billion shekel is saying? Because I think you're just making it up. Like I have nothing better to do. Go look at the news if you want to waste your time. It's public news that's what's happening. Of course, people have a much easier time going and asking me for sources and looking for mistakes, because chas v'shalom that you can touch their horse, their favorite horse, that is their fake reality. Now, again, the important thing to know is that the situation is as bad as it is. It's not a lost cause. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not put us in a test that we cannot handle. He doesn't give us a test that we can't handle. But again, when you look at the lives of people and how they live, especially people in Western society, especially people that are not living in Eretz Yisrael, and how they justify their actions, you see that perhaps we're not doing enough. Perhaps the energy, the resources that we are exerting is not necessarily going to the right places. Because when you look at the world of yeshivot, the world of Torah, the world of avrechim, the world of kiruv, with the amount of money that people have made, forget about how much they have, just simply the amount of money that people have made. And I'm not talking about people have made like the billionaires of the world. I'm talking about the common people that had a few dollars that they invested in Bitcoin, had a few dollars invested into real estate, had a few dollars invested into businesses or into the stock market. Over the last 5 or 10 years, literally you have endless amount of people that have made a fortune, both relatively and in comparison to historically, over the last several years. So much so that just from the maaser of the profits that people have made, you could literally fund all of the world of yeshivot, all of the avrechim, all of the kiruv operations that are necessary to literally make all of Am Yisrael do tshuva. But unfortunately, that's not happening. The amount of people that give maaser, and I know it's not just for us as an organization, but just generally, overall, the amount of people that give maaser, that give 10% of their income towards Torah, is not increasing very much. If anything, in some cases, it's decreasing. People are so obnoxious and so warped in their mindset that you even have people take money that they were supposed to give in tzedakah and instead use it for other things. And now, unfortunately, some people that have such a yetzer hara for money, that even after they do a mitzvah, the yetzer hara doesn't leave them alone and they fall for it. Like we had several times happen, even recently. Somebody that donated on behalf of themselves and their family almost $3,000 to help us feed the poor people for the campaign in Purim. Now, of course, this is very nice. Thank you very much. But it's thank you very much if you actually continue with this process, but not dispute the transaction after we've already spent the money. And unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes. People donate money and then they dispute the transaction, meaning that not only did you lose out on the mitzvah, but now it's turned into a sin because now you've actually stolen money because we've lost money because of you. Now, we don't spend much effort chasing these people around. We usually send them a single message to see if this is a mistake or this is intentional. If they respond, usually it's because it's a mistake. If they don't respond, it's because it's intentional, simply because they care less. They're too self-centered, too ignorant of the consequence of their actions, and there's not much for us to do. But again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that runs the world, so we're not going to skip any nights of sleep because of it. It just tells us how bad the situation is with some people, where you have certain people that literally will send you 10 questions a week, a few hundred questions during the year, and then when you do the annual report, you see that this person donated $18. Now again, if this person was so poor that they can't donate more than $18, how could they afford all this internet access for the hundreds of questions? Some people say, listen, Rabbi, I binge on your shiurim. I watch at least 1 or 2 a day. And then you look at the annual report and you see this 1 or 2 videos a day that this person is using to change their life hasn't woken up their bank account because they only donated $50 for the whole year. And again, I'm not talking about poor people. There are literally very few poor people in Western society. And the reality is, sometimes you'll see people from India, people from different parts of the Philippines, people from Malaysia that literally donate more money than people that make 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 more money that they make. You have some wonderful people, some Jews, some righteous Noahites that do whatever they can to send you that $100 every month or $200 or whatever it is, or $50. And then when you add it all up, you see these wonderful people actually got themselves a spiritual bank account at the end of the year of $1,000, $2,000 that they donated. But the other people that binge on your shiurim, that supposedly changed their life, what do they give you? They give you $100 for the year or $18, some miserable sum that really shows you that the shiurim are not really doing much for them. There's something wrong here. There's something wrong when people are canceling their $50 a month commitment. And it's not because financially they're doing bad. There's something wrong when somebody donates $2,000 or $3,000 and then disputes the transaction. And as I said, this is not the first time this has happened. There's something wrong when the world of yeshivot, the world of kiruv, the world of kollels is struggling so much that we can't grow as fast as we should be able to. There's something wrong when HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to wake us up in the morning with terrorism. There's something wrong when you have grown men and women calling, sending messages, even sending short videos of them and their kids crying hysterically, showing you their refrigerator empty of everything but a little slice of butter. Literally, this is like the Holocaust. This is what we're dealing with here, Rabotai. We're dealing with a circumstance where you have poverty on one end by some of the greatest people on planet Earth, and then on the other hand, the people that have the money simply don't feel the need. There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with what's going on. Now, of course, with our small shoulders, we can't fix everything, but we can fix ourselves. We can push ourselves. That's what we can do. We can't inspire everyone to the point where everyone decides that, oh, I'm going to do it this time. You can't. Some people will be inspired. Some people will not. Some people will continue to pretend like they're tzaddikim. Some people will face facts and realize there's a lot of work to do. Some people will continue getting better as they already have been in the path of getting better, turning from formerly being drug addicts, prostitutes, drunks, heretics, and all types of disasters, and now beautiful, amazing, righteous people that are growing and learning Torah. Some people will continue growing into the amazing people that I saw at the event and that I talk to every day. Some people will continue bringing more beautiful neshamot into the world, where their priority is to learn Torah, is to do mitzvot, is to follow the will of Hashem, no matter what anybody else says. And some people will simply wither into nothing, where you have people that literally have millions of dollars, where they could build a Torah empire with it, but they're too stingy to even donate $100 or $500. Literally, it's not something that you don't cry about the fact that they don't give it to you, because of course you know that everything is from Hashem. If you were supposed to get it, you would get it. Nobody in the world can take the food that's on your table that belongs to you. Whatever HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided for you, you're going to get. But what you cry for is to see that your brothers and sisters are sometimes at such a dismal situation that they don't even realize where they stand. They don't realize that the klipa, the spiritual layer on top of their neshama that's comprised of sins, is so thick they can no longer see the difference between right and wrong. They decide that they know better than the sages. They know better than Moshe Rabbeinu. They know better than Rav Ovadia. They know better than the Rambam and all of the greatest people that ever lived in history, that toiled and toiled over Torah, because they watched a YouTube video that perhaps doesn't make sense to them. And it literally, you see people throw their lives into nothing. And one of the worst things in the world is when you see the outcome of this stuff, where Baruch Hashem, the organization has grown tremendously over the last several years. We've been giving lectures for many years. We've been helping people for many years, helping people in a lot of different ways. And of course, along the way, you meet some really, really amazing people. And once in a while, you meet people that are not exactly in such great shape, not exactly such amazing people. And I remember just a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago or so, there was a fella that I met. And this fella told me that he has a ton of money, and for whatever reason or another, he felt that this is something that I care about. And he told me about how he has a fancy car, and a very big house, and a very big company, and a very big this, and a lot of things. And yeah, I liked your Wall Street story, and I think the same thing was happening to me, but I already changed. I already decided that I'm not going to work on a Sabbath anymore, and I decided that I'm going to start learning. And okay, great. So what can I help you with? Well, listen, I thought maybe we could talk and maybe you could teach me. I said, I'm sorry, I don't give private lessons, but if you want to watch my videos, by all means, you're welcome. Well, Rabbi, why don't you just move to my community? And I asked him about his community. I told him, well, is there a synagogue there or anything? He goes, no, you could start one. I said, okay, are you going to buy the building? He said, no, I'm not going to buy the building, but, I'll help with the rent. Oh, so you want me to pick up my whole family and just decide to go move to the middle of nowhere just so you could have a personal shiur? And it didn't make any sense. But nonetheless, one of the things that I noticed is that, 4 years or so have passed, and this fella, was in and out of touch from time to time. And then he decides to get in touch, and for whatever reason I had this siyata dishmaya thinking, wait, I remember this guy. I spoke to him 4 years ago, and nothing has changed. Actually, he's gotten worse. Look what he could have done with that $50 or $100 million that he had. He could have literally had 100% of all of the growth that Be'ezrat Hashem has had. He literally could have had tens of thousands of Baalei Tshuva in his spiritual portfolio. He could have had a yeshiva empire. He could have helped literally 50,000 people eat over the last few years. He could have been part of any of it. And what is he a part of? Nothing. Zero. Nothing has changed. He's still miserable, still nothing, but at least you got your money. And that's the saddest thing in the world. When you see people that have the tools, but don't know how to use them. And unfortunately, Rabotai, this is not just talking to the people that are secular. This is not just talking to the people that are newly religious. This is not just talking to them. This is also talking to the religious ones among us. The ones that think that they're already perfect and they don't necessarily need to change very much. And sometimes even the ones that watch our shiurim on a regular basis but have hit some type of neutral plateau and they stopped growing or even realizing that they need to grow. Stop reflecting, but instead only focused on projecting. They figured that everything that I say in a shiur has to do with the guy or the girl behind them. Maybe on the side, maybe somebody else that's watching. While for them it's pure entertainment, intellectual stimulation at best. But to change, to improve, no, that's not for me. I'm already doing the best that I can, Rabbi. And the saddest thing in the world is to see people spend so much time becoming the internet police. The internet police. I had to rebuke one of my students in a nice way today, just literally telling him just a few words that I hope he got the message. And I think he's smart enough to get it. Where, every once in a while he sends me these messages. Oh, this rabbi did this, and that website wrote this, and they're doing wrong here, and they're wrong there. And I'm just thinking to myself, I don't have time to read all of these messages. I have hundreds and hundreds of messages, and most of them are real problems. But of course, you have some people send these messages, and they figure that anything that's wrong out there, just go bring it to me, and I'll make a whole shiur about it, and have the headache still go along with it. And really, after I looked at this guy, and I know that this guy learns Torah. He learns Torah. He's not a fool. He's not an ignoramus. He learns Torah. But then I see what's going on. I looked at the last several messages, and I started noticing a pattern here. What's the pattern? Pattern is you're spending too much time on the internet. That's the pattern. You're spending too much time on the internet. The internet is a place for you to go learn Torah. Don't spend any time whatsoever investigating the wicked people of the world and being the internet police and going on fighting campaigns with comments back and forth of who's a heretic and who's not. That is not going to help anyone, especially you. But unfortunately, when a person forgets the purpose of why we're here in the first place, they figure that, you know what? I'm already doing enough, because some of the things that are mentioned in the shiur about Gaon, where people that violate Shabbat and waste seed and they steal, they don't relate to me. I don't violate Shabbat, I don't waste seed anymore, Baruch Hashem, and I don't steal, and I don't wear a wig. So since none of this stuff relates to me, perhaps I'm good enough. So what happens? They start coasting, they start relaxing, and they start falling without even realizing it. Literally going into a spiritual death without even realizing it. And unfortunately, many times when you want to measure people as far as where they stand spiritually, just look at where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is directing their tzedakah money to. Whether they're even giving tzedakah, whether they have bracha in their money, whether they're able to get chidushim from the Torah that are actual kosher chidushim. Or you see these people literally 3, 4, 5, 7 years, same exact thing. They started, they did a couple of big things, but then after that, I'm enough. Anytime you see yourself not growing and not fighting for growth, you are declining. It's not that you're the same, you're declining, because a Jew only goes up or down, never stays the same. And that's one of the things that we see from these sages, no matter who they were, whether it was the Gaon of Vilna, or it was Rabbi Yisrael Misalant, or is anybody else that's out there. When they talk Musar, they're talking to themselves. They're rebuking themselves. And literally, you see people that they're 80 years old, full of Torah, full of Kedusha, but still fighting to get better, still fighting to maintain everything, still fighting to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the fullest. And that's what we see with this letter. This letter, Baruch Hashem, is one of those things where you could read it a million times and still get more insights from it. Same thing like all of the other letters that we've reviewed in the past, the Iggeret HaRamban, or the Kuntres by Arav Wasserman, or all of the rest of the Torah is something that you can learn and toil over it and always get something new. Unfortunately, when a person allows themselves to get some good stuff, but he mixes it with some chametz, then you can ruin everything. And it's no secret that we all have a mitzvah that's coming up over the next couple of weeks before Pesach, where before Pesach begins, the night before, on the 14th, we all have to go look and destroy the chametz. And there's a reason for that. Look and destroy the chametz. That's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is to go look and destroy the chametz. Not look and maybe eat the chametz. Look, and if you don't find anything, then no big deal. No. Look and destroy the chametz. That's the actual mitzvah. Why doesn't it say, look and find the chametz? Why doesn't it say, look for the chametz, and that's it? If you find something, good. If you don't find something, no good. Why? Because anyone that's looking for chametz like they're supposed to will surely find some. Anyone that's looking for chametz the right way will surely find some, and that's the physical chametz, needless to say, the spiritual chametz, where the Gemara, Masechet Avot, says anytime a person has difficulties, and who doesn't have difficulties, he should already yefashfesh b'ma'asav, review his own actions. Where do I stand? Where's my Torah? Where's my mitzvot? Where's my tzedakah? Where's my chesed? Where's my ahavat Hashem? Where's my ahavat Yisrael? Where is my kavod l'rabanim, the talmidei chachamim? Where is my honor to my spouse? Where is my honor to my dear friends? Where are all of my mitzvot? Where do I stand with everything? If you're getting into a fight with your spouse on a regular basis, if you're not liking to give tzedakah, if you're not enjoying your prayer, if you don't like to study, and in fact you don't even find yourself studying at all Torah, if you are finding yourself more inclined to do the things that the goyim do, play sports, watch them, watch the Oscars, read the news, if you find yourself doing things like that, you should know you have a very serious spiritual disease, and the longer you let it go, the worse it becomes. If you find yourself not able to give tzedakah, that's not because of financial circumstance. That's because of spiritual circumstance. Because surely there are people that make less than you and yet give more than you. How can they do it? It's not because they manage their money better. It's because they manage their neshama better. And that's one of the things that a person never really thinks about. Many times a person gives a lot, but he gives to the wrong places. Never thinking, what, is it the right place? Is it the wrong place? The reality is, Rabotai, if a person wants to check their spiritual status, check where do you stand with all of these things I just mentioned. What kind of fruits are you getting out of the things that you're getting? Are you getting new chidushim? Are you helping people do tshuva? Are you growing spiritually? Do you see your kids getting closer to Hashem? Are you able to overcome the difficulties spiritually that are around you? Are you able to cope with the problems psychologically by using the Torah, or are you always using the Gentiles that are self-help gurus instead, as if there's no wise men among us? If a person actually delves into the chametz that's inside him or her, surely they will find it, and the mitzvah is to destroy it. The mitzvah is not just find chametz. The mitzvah is not just find chametz and don't do anything about it. The mitzvah is find and destroy chametz. Why? Because if you're looking, surely you will find, and your obligation is to already be ready to destroy it before you even found it. And that's one of the things that we have to do as a person each and every single day. Now, the Gaon of Vilna has been telling us time and time again how important it is to learn musar, how important it is to teach it to our kids. Now he's talking to his son-in-law, who is a Talmid Chacham, a person that's learning Torah on a regular basis, not just doing it on the side, but making it his vocation. Taking the blessing of making Torah your life. Now sure, learning Torah full-time is not for everybody. It's not for everybody. If you have the ability to do it, surely you should do it. If you don't have, you still could learn 2, 4, 6 hours a day. I mean, you don't need to think that just because learning Torah like an avrech is not something that you can do, that means that you're absolved from learning it more than just watching the occasional shiur. Every person can learn for a few hours a day. Every person. Now, if you're just starting out, this is the first shiur that you're ever watching, or the first shiur that you're watching in a long time, this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours is not something that most of you are able to start with. Typically, 15, 30 minutes is what somebody can start with. And that's fine too. That's how I started, 15 minutes a day. But every day, no exceptions, nothing. You have to make it like breathing. You breathe every day, you eat every day, you drink every day. You have to learn Torah every day. You have to feed the neshama every day. And that's going to help you do more mitzvot, and that's going to help you serve Hashem even better and want it more. But if a person learns a lot one day but nothing for several days, it's as if he did nothing. So a person needs to know that you have to constantly grow in Torah. But the further you grow, the more difficult it becomes. Why? Because now you start realizing that siyata dishmaya, that divine assistance you had from heaven, okay, that helped you in the beginning, where you were able to sit down or stand up for 2, 4, 6 hours straight and get all types of amazing new insights. You felt certain ways, you saw certain things, you were able to literally feel what you were learning. During the first 1 or 2 years, all of a sudden, it's much more difficult. All of a sudden, it's hard for you to get even an hour in. All of a sudden, it's hard for you to even understand what's going on. Don't think that you have to give up for a second. Don't think that you've gone down, but rather you've gone up. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you special training wheels in the beginning to get you going. Now He wants to move you up. He wants to move you up, but He has to test you. So now you have to fight for the Torah. You have to literally steal hours, steal minutes from everywhere you can. You have to be very particular about your schedule, very committed to it, because if you are committed to it, you will eventually succeed much more than you did before. But again, the Gaon of Vilna says that despite the amount of Torah that you've learned in your past, your avodat Hashem, your avodat of the midot, your servitude of Hashem, and your constant self-introspection has to continue at any stage of your life. Thereby he talks to his son-in-law, who's a Talmid Chacham, and he tells him things that are simple: to learn Torah for the sake of heaven, to make sure to teach Torah, but also to make sure to learn and teach Masechet Avot. Masechet Avot, that is in essence the tractate of the Mishnah, that is the teachings, the moral teachings of our sages, of our forefathers, that a person that reviews it and delves into it realizes that the wisdom in it is in itself never ending. This is the reason why, many of the Chachamim, literally I can't think of anyone who has it, many of the Chachamim have chiburim, have writings. Some have been published, some are private, but nonetheless, many of the Chachamim have writings on Masechet Avot, have their commentary on it. And all of them are different. All of them are getting different teachings, where there's literally endless wisdom on Pirkei Avot, because this is moral teachings. So the Gaon of Vilna is telling this Chacham, that's his son-in-law, make sure to learn Pirkei Avot. Yeah, but you probably learned it already at least a dozen times. Why does he have to learn it again? Because each time you'll see more. You'll find more chametz inside yourself. You'll find more chametz in society. You'll find more reasons to serve Hashem. You'll find more reasons that you're able to run away from, more ways to run away from the Yetzer Hara, from the evil inclination. But that in itself is not enough. Why? Working on yourself means that you have to constantly measure your relationships. Which relationships do you have to measure? First and foremost, you have to measure your relationship between you and Hashem. You and Hashem. Many people say, no, me and Hashem, we're like this. Oh, really? So, you learn Torah every day? 5, 10, 15 hours? How many hours? No, I watch a shiur here and there. Oh, so Hashem's instruction said, Hashem's love letter is the Torah, and you're saying you're glued to Hashem, but the Torah, the love letter, only once in a while you get to it. That's what you're saying? Okay, next question. So, your servitude of Hashem, is that helping you keep Shabbat? Well, I'm not quite there. I just don't work on Shabbat. Wait, so what do you do if you don't work on Shabbat? Why can't you have Kiddush? Why can't you have go to synagogue? Why can't you stop working, stop playing with your phone? Why? Oh, I'm bored, I'm single, or I'm newly married, or the kids want to play, and I don't want them to cry, so I take them to, somewhere every time. Wait, but you just said that you're glued to Hashem. How are you glued to Hashem if you're desecrating a Shabbat? How exactly does that work? And people live a deluded reality, thinking that they are close to Hashem, when in reality, HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls these people his haters. People that do not observe Torah and mitzvot, that people are called Hashem's haters, Hashem's enemies. This is not mentioned just once or twice by the sages, but it's actually mentioned in the Torah itself. Look at the book of Deuteronomy, Parashat Vayetchanan. Meshalem el sonav el panav le'avido. Kadosh Baruch Hu says that he will pay cash to his haters to their face. And who are these haters? These haters are the people that do not observe Torah and mitzvot. But a person can say, no, he's perfectly fine with Hashem, and sometimes it seems like he is. You see him in synagogue, you see him learning here and there, you may even see him say a Dvar Torah. So you have to go to test number 2. Test number 2 is, how are you when it comes to your Am Yisrael? How are you when it comes to Am Yisrael? Do you care about Am Yisrael? Are you making sure that you show your love for Am Yisrael? Yeah, Rabbi, I get along with everybody. I didn't ask you if you get along with everybody. Do you show your love for Am Yisrael? Do you know what that even means, to show your love to Am Yisrael? Well, I get along with everybody. It's not loving Am Yisrael. No, that just means that you don't get into any fistfights. To love Am Yisrael means that you care for their well-being, no less than you care for your well-being. So that means you have 2 parts of well-being. You have the spiritual well-being and you have the physical well-being. When it comes to the spiritual well-being, did you make sure that your portfolio for helping Am Yisrael get closer to Hashem spiritually is growing as rapidly as your financial portfolio? Your bitcoins, your stocks, your real estate, your businesses, your cars, your watch collection, all the stuff that you want, all the stuff that you already have, all the stuff that you forgot about, all that stuff continues to grow. You continue to accumulate more stuff. Amazon keeps shipping more boxes to your house. Different dealers keep calling you every day because they know you're a good customer. Everybody gets excited when you walk into the mall. So your stuff portfolio continues to go up. Your broker, your financial manager, your insurance advisor, all of those people, they depend on you to have an addition to their vacation house. Each year they make enough money from you. So surely your portfolio is growing, you're growing. Your 401k is growing, your IRA is growing, your everything is growing. Is your spiritual portfolio growing also? And I don't mean you learning Torah. I mean helping Am Yisrael learn Torah. Helping Am Yisrael get closer to Hashem. Do you love Am Yisrael by caring enough about their well-being? Because if that portfolio is non-existent or virtually non-existent in comparison to the rest, then perhaps you don't love Am Yisrael as much as you think. No, but Rabbi, I gave tzedakah, I helped a few poor people last year. I gave, okay, so let's check the physical portfolio. Now, your Pesach last year, how much did it cost you? $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000? Yeah, it cost me probably, I don't know, probably we went away last year, so yeah, you know what, Rabbi? Yeah, by the end of it, probably cost about $20,000, $25,000. Oh, so you took the whole family on some vacation that everybody said it's kosher food over there? Yeah, $20,000, $25,000? That's a pretty good deal. Okay, so now, $25,000 you spent on your Pesach, right? And you're just one family. Did you at least consider that maybe you should spend at least as much on helping Am Yisrael's Pesach? But not help one family. $25,000 could help a lot more than one family. Did you think perhaps your one family expense should be somewhat similar to the expense you spend on Am Yisrael? Did you think about that? Well, perhaps maybe that's too much for you. What about 10%? You spent $25,000. Did you think maybe you should, help Am Yisrael with $2,500? Dollars, not rupees, because then we're not going to get anywhere. Did you think about that? Just like the same currency you used to pay for the vacation, perhaps use the same currency to help Am Yisrael eat. Did you think about that? Well, I helped that guy that's downstairs from my office. I gave him like $50 here and there. Exactly. You see, everybody gives something, and that's how the Yetzer gets you. He gets you to give stuff, and he gets you to give so often, and he gets you to give to the wrong places just to satiate that hunger in the wrong way. It's like junk food. It's like you order Chinese food, make sure it's kosher, you order it, you get a plate. Literally, the plate looks like it has enough food for 50 people, but it's only for you. You got the lo mein, you got the rice, you got the Mongolian chicken, this chicken, the spicy chicken. It all tastes the same, but they call it different names. And you have a plate, literally, it's bigger than your stomach, and you consume it as fast as you can because it's so sugary and so delicious, and you figure, I'm good for the night. Not a half hour later passes and you're already hungry. You're like, whoa, how could it be? Honey, do we have any leftovers from the Chinese food? How? You just ate enough for 5 people. How? That's the reality. Reality is it's false news over there. It's fake news. What? You're never going to get satiated over the Chinese food, just like your neshama is never going to truly get satiated off of these fake tzedakot. All of these people that donated zillions of dollars to Ukraine, literally they have to pray just as much about their tzedakah that they gave as they do on helping the people. Why? Because the reality is, first and foremost, they mentioned in the other shiurim, who knows if it's even going to get to the right place? Who knows if it's going to get to the right place with all the crime over there, with all the corruption, with all the problems that are over there, with the corruptions in the tzedakah world and so on. That's number one. Number two, who knows if that money is going to save the right people? Do you know how many Nazi Ukrainians there are that are actually entering Eretz Yisrael right now and are being protected by the court? They want to allow another 1 million or more Nazis into Israel, just like they did in the past. They allowed 1 million Russians into Israel under the premise that they're all Jews, only to find out that only 4% of the 1 million Russians that entered are actually Jews. Literally, they allowed almost 1 million people to enter Eretz Yisrael as Jews, even though they're not Jews. And now people are donating zillions of dollars, literally tens of millions of dollars, to help the Ukrainians. Okay, fine. You want to help the Ukrainians? Do you understand that you may be helping the next guy that's going to be like this Liber Haman? You could be helping a guy that could be a heretic that's going to publish another God Needs You book that's full of heresy. Do you understand that you have to pray for your tzedakah to bear fruit? People send money because it touches their heart, but that's not the way to invest. You don't invest with your heart. I was in the investment business for almost 20 years. I can assure you, people that invested with their heart didn't end up so well. Why? You don't invest with your heart. You have to invest with your mind. You have to see, where do I need to spend my money? Where do I need to invest my money? Needless to say, your tzedakah, because that's the only money you truly have. The only money you truly have is tzedakah money. But if your tzedakah money is funding Nazis, it's funding liberals, it's funding anti-Torah mentalities, and you think it's a mitzvah, you have a surprise waiting for you. And that's one of the things that a person usually doesn't think about. They figure that if I gave $5,000 here, $2,000 there, $50 there, $20 there, I'm good. But when you really do a portfolio analysis, as we call it, it doesn't work out so well. Doesn't work out, doesn't look so good, sir. I think you have to reevaluate. I think you have to restructure the whole thing. Why? It sucks in English. That's what happens. That's what happens when we evaluate where we go, where we invest. So when we analyze our love for Am Yisrael, we see that their spiritual status, their physical status, we don't care so much about them as much as we thought we do, because we're not necessarily investing as much time and energy to analyze what we're doing, how much we're doing, if it's appropriate, if it's not, if it's the right place, if it's not. Many times people donate based on either emotional video that they don't even understand what it says, Or they invest based on who is the best salesman, who is the one that's gonna, kiss up to them the most amount of time, call them the most amount of time, and make them feel good about their wealth the most amount of time. That's the wrong approach. Rabotai Karim, remember, your spiritual portfolio is comprised of dollars that you invest into good things and bad things, not just good things. Good things and bad things. And if you have a lot of bad stuff that you funded, you'll get punished for every single penny. Why? That's just the way the world works. That's how Kadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. So now a person analyzes their relationship with a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and they say, perhaps I have some work to do. You analyze the relationship you have as far as loving Am Yisrael, and you realize, perhaps I have some work to do. Then you have to analyze the third part. Your immediate circle, meaning your wife, your husband, your children, your rabbi, your community. How's your relationship with them? Oh no, it's perfect. Is it perfect just from your perspective? But your wife cries every night herself to sleep because you're such a miserable, cheap, stingy, good for nothing person? Like, it's perfect by according to who? Who is it perfect by? Are you analyzing it from your perspective or from their perspective? Is it perfect from your perspective because you have everything you want, but yet your husband has to work 3 jobs just to pay for everything you want? That's why you think it's perfect? Is it perfect because you think that, oh no, everything is good, my kids are going to the school and everything is good? Okay, it's perfect from your perspective because you send your kids to school and you only see them once a year, but your kids could be cracking out and you wouldn't even know because you haven't even called them in a few weeks. It's perfect because you're able to hang out with your girlfriends every day and have coffee because your kids are out of your hair. Why is it perfect? From whose perspective is it perfect? Sometimes you have kids literally crying to their parents for attention. And when their parents don't pay attention, you know what they do? They become bad kids. They figure my dad, my mom didn't give me any attention when I was looking for attention. So you know what? The only time they gave me attention when I started breaking stuff, when I started destroying stuff, when I started doing bad things. That's when they paid attention to me. When I ended up in the hospital, they paid attention to me. When I ended up doing stupid things, they paid attention to me. So the kid starts doing it. And then sometimes you talk to the parent, you tell them, listen, why don't you spend some more time with the kid and perhaps see where is all of this leading? Because it seems like your kid is crying for attention. If your kid's 12, 13 years old and says, I think I'm homosexual, that's a kid crying for attention. It's not a kid that's really homosexual. It's a kid that's crying for attention. It's a kid that's crying for re-education. Yeah, but I'm busy working. Then stop working or simply don't have kids. You have to understand that sometimes you have to take charge and make a sacrifice for the better good. You have to save this kid. And don't be the one, no, I'll just call the rabbi and he'll fix it. Doesn't work that way. You have a responsibility. You have to fix certain things. You have to work on certain things. And you have to evaluate things not just from your perspective, but from the world around you's perspective. Sometimes you have these guys that live a deluded reality. They think that everything is perfect because they have a house, they have food, they have their job, they learn a little bit, everything is good. But in reality, the family is miserable. The family is miserable. The wife is depressed. The kids are high. All these different things. They don't happen for nothing. You have to evaluate things from everybody else's perspective to see what can I do? What can I do? Sometimes all you can do is just put out fires until things are under control, and then you can start building them. Sometimes there is a little bit of calm time. That's a time to build. Sometimes people are already doing good, and then you could simply just watch them go and guide them from time to time and then do some other things. But you have to understand that you can't just look at things from your own perspective. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And a person that does some self-accounting will always find something to work on. Will always find something to work on. This is why it fascinates me how people have any time to spend on the internet. How do you have time to spend on the internet? There are so many things to do. If you evaluate your relationship with Hashem the right way, that already eliminates all the time that exists in the world. if you actually evaluate it the right way. Now let's say we're not tzaddikim, we're not able to do all that. Okay, so we evaluate it somewhat. Then you evaluate your relationship with your own family, your own circle, your community, your rabbi, your spiritual account. Where do you stand? Already that takes up half the day. If you evaluate your relationship against Am Yisrael, where do you stand? Do you care? Do you not care? Are you contributing? Or are you one of these leeches that only takes, where you see some people literally, all they want to do is take. They cannot contribute anything to anyone. Why? These are sick people. Sick people. Don't get mad at them. They're sick. Unfortunately, you hope that they do tshuva. You hope that these people wake up one day and realize it's not just the world around you, it's also you have to work on. But nonetheless, you have situations, you have circumstances where you have people that don't pay attention to anything, and you could have their whole lives going to the garbage without them even realizing. Or better yet, they know it's a problem, but it's too painful for them to fix it, so they simply decide to live with it. This is usually the most common. People are aware of their issues, but they simply are not willing to deal with the pain. They don't want to work on it. They don't want to fix it. They figure, listen, as long as I have the basics that I need, who needs to deal with this pain? This is unfortunately a bad decision that many people make. And again, you don't have to deal with everything at all times. But if you have enough time to waste on the internet, to read the news, to read the comments, to go back and forth with people, to make friends on the internet. How do you have time to make friends on the internet, Ribono Shel Olam? You have a family, you have kids, you have a husband, you have a wife, you have a job, you have stuff to do. How do you have time for all this stuff? Who has time for all of this stuff? If I could ask for anything from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, other than please have mercy on me and allow me to enter Gan Eden one day, the only thing I could ask is literally give me some more time so maybe I have a chance to enter Gan Eden. I mean, I don't understand how people have all this time. They make friends and they go to bars and they go have a drink. Oh, and what did you do this weekend? How do you have time for these conversations? Who has time for this stuff? Rabotai, we didn't come to this world to have coffee and cake. We came to this world to work. And unless you take your life seriously, no one else will. No one else will. This is what the Gaon of Vilna is telling his Talmid Chacham son-in-law. Now, if you think this is exaggeration, let's just read the words. After telling him to learn Musar, after telling him to learn Torah for the sake of heaven, meaning don't expect anything in return. Learn Torah for the sake of learning Torah and fulfilling the word of Hashem. That's it. Don't ask for reward. Don't ask for anything. Learn Torah for the sake of learning Torah. That's it. After telling him to do that, after telling him to learn Musar, he still has to remind him, my dear son-in-law, I have to remind you. What does he have to remind you? You should honor your mother-in-law, meaning the Gaon of Vilna's wife, and honor your children's grandmother, who is the Gaon of Vilna's mother. You should greatly honor them. With regard to everyone, conduct yourself with politeness, gentleness, and respect. I don't understand. He's not talking to some gangster that's trying to do tshuva. He's talking to a Talmid Chacham. He's talking to a Talmid Chacham, his son-in-law, somebody he knows. And he's telling him things that you're supposed to tell yourself, things that you're supposed to tell your children, things that you're supposed to tell people that perhaps don't know this. But he's telling them the same thing. He's reminding them of what's the obvious. Because as the Ramchal says in his preface, in the introduction to Mesilat Yesharim, I'm only here to remind you of the things you already know, but in reality we don't know any of it and everything is a chidush. But nonetheless, he says, I'm only here to remind you of all these things. Why remind you? Because the things that we already know, typically, we don't pay attention to them. We don't pay attention to them. Ask any person on the world. Any person, Jew or Gentile, young or old. Are you supposed to honor your parents? I'll tell you, of course. Follow-up question. Do you honor your parents? Yeah, well, you know, what do you mean by honor? What do you mean what I mean by, why is it a trick question? Simple. Do you know you're supposed to honor your parents? Everyone will answer yes. Again, assuming normal conditions, not parents that are sociopaths and that torture their kids. I'm talking about normal circumstance. Normal circumstance. You ask any normal person, do you honor your parents? Are you supposed to honor your parents? Everyone will answer yes. Any religion, any part of the world. Do you honor your parents? All of a sudden you get people to get confused. Why? Well, what do you mean by honor? What you just said that you should, which means that you already have a definition of it. Do you do it? Well, I try, Well, do you want your kids to honor you as much as you honor your parents? And all of a sudden you get people thinking. And that's a good thing. Because when we think, usually we can get to good places. It's when we don't think that we're already doomed. So here, the Gaon of Vilna is reminding his son-in-law, the Talmid Chacham, of the obvious. In order to get us thinking, are we actually doing it? But he's not even saying, honor me, because he's not going to be there. So what honor do I need? He's saying, honor my wife, who is your mother-in-law. Honor my mother, who is the grandmother of your kids. And also make sure to conduct yourself with politeness, gentleness, and respect with everybody else. Now, these basic things, if you don't work on them, surely you are failing miserably in all of them. Why? As much as they make common sense, they do not come to us naturally. They don't come to us naturally. Now, the Midrash says that a person has to honor his father-in-law as much as he honors his father. Now, even though the Shulchan Aruch in Yoreh De'ah, Siman 240, also says that a person has to honor his father-in-law, he doesn't say like he has to honor his father. Nonetheless, you have an obligation to honor your in-laws. Again, assuming normal circumstances, those of you, and it's Baruch Hashem not many, but those of you that I've told you to move as far away from your in-laws as humanly possible, this does not include you because your circumstance was unique. You have psychopaths for in-laws. I'm sorry, that's a reality. You have psychopaths for in-laws, run away. You have normal in-laws that are decent people, that want to help you serve Hashem, that don't intrude on your life, don't feel like they have your house is a bus stop they can walk into whenever they want. They give you your respect, they give you your space. They're not looking to manage your marriage. They're not looking to fly in unexpectedly for a 3-week vacation. They're not looking to decide what you're going to feed your kids and where you're going to send them to school. You have normal in-laws. They want to be part of your life. They love you. They try to help you if possible. They're one of those people. That's good. You have to honor them. Good people. Honor them. Obligated to honor them even. But the Midrash says even honor them as much as you honor your parents. Now again, halacha is not as much as your parents, but nonetheless, everyone agrees, lekula alma is how we say in the Gemara, everyone agrees you have to honor your in-laws. Everyone agrees. Where did they get it from? They get it from David HaMelech. Where did David HaMelech say it? The book of Shmuel. Shmuel 1, chapter 24. Shmuel had the worst relationship on planet Earth with his father-in-law. Who was his father-in-law? Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech gave his daughter Michal to David HaMelech. Michal was a tzadikah, and Michal made a mistake where one time she saw David HaMelech dancing in honor of the Torah. She said, it's not kavod for a king to dance like a fool like you. David HaMelech, me, dance for the Torah like this? Of course it's all the kavod in the world to dance like this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed with David and he punished Michal. She never had kids. But nonetheless, she was a righteous woman. Her father was one of the most righteous people in the world. So much so that the Tanakh says that when Shaul became a king, he was like a 1-year-old. Now, of course, the Christian heretics say, oh, look, there's a contradiction here. Look, it says that he's 1 year old. He's really not 1 year old. No, it's like a 1-year-old, meaning that he was sinless. He was sinless. We don't read a Tanakh like you read a Harry Potter book. You have to understand what you're reading. But nonetheless, Shaul HaMelech was a righteous king, a tzaddik, the first official king of Am Yisrael. But he had ruach shtut. Literally, the Yetzer Hara entered him and made him think that David, his son-in-law is there to kill him. Is there to steal the kinghood from him. And ended up chasing David HaMelech for years. Trying to kill David. So the book of Shmuel in chapter 24 says about something that happened despite the fact that Shaul tried to king David and chase him up and low, right and left, in the mountains, in the caves. He chased from everywhere just to find to kill him. David HaMelech had an opportunity to kill Shaul. He had an opportunity. Shaul was sleeping. Everybody was sleeping. David HaMelech came close to Shaul, took his sword and ripped the corner of his tzitzit, and then left the camp. As soon as they woke up, David HaMelech called out to Shaul and said, "Please, sir," in verse 12, verse 12, says, "Please, sir, take a look at the corner of your cloak," meaning your tzitzit. "It's in my hand. For when I cut off the corner of your cloak, I did not kill you. You must see plainly that I have done nothing evil or rebellious, and I have never wronged you. Yet you are bent on taking my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may he take vengeance upon you for me, but my hand will never touch you." See here, David HaMelech tells Shaul, "I could have killed you. Not even your best soldier was able to help you. Don't you see I'm not trying to kill you? Don't you see I'm not trying to kill you?" So the Midrash and the Gemara and all of the Chachamim discuss this particular verse. Say, look over here. David had all of the chances in the world to kill Shaul, and he chose not to. And not only that, it says, "V'avi re'eh gam re'eh." Please, sir, take a close look. V'avi, it's really the best translation is my father. My father, see. See, please, see. Mention it twice. So Chamim say, what is he talking about? My father, please see. He says, David HaMelech, despite the fact that his father-in-law Shaul is trying to kill him, still calls him Avi, still calls him my father, still gives him respect. And Chachamim say from there we learn that you have to honor your father-in-law. You have to honor your father-in-law. Now again, just like your real father, you're only obligated to honor them if they are compliant with the Torah. If they tell you to violate the Torah, no honor is to be given to them. No honor is to be given to them. Not your father-in-law and not your real father, biological father. But nonetheless, some poskim actually paskin, just like the Midrash, which they actually say that you have to honor your father-in-law and thereby your mother-in-law, like you honor your real parents. All of them agree that you have to honor them, but some actually go to the extent like the Midrash and say you have to honor them in the same measure, which is a much, much higher extreme. Now, when we evaluate just this part, just this, honoring parents, do we have what we thought was obvious just a few moments ago? Where the Gaon of Vilna tells his Talmid Chacham, son-in-law, make sure to honor your mother-in-law, greatly honor your great-grandmother, your children's great-grandmother, which is your Gaon of Vilna's mother. Conduct yourself with politeness, gentleness, and respect. Do we do that with our own parents? When your parents ask you to go do something for them, something simple, go to the store, go pick up something for them, give a helping hand. Do you do it with a smile? Oh yeah, sure, Abba, no problem. When do you want me to pick you up from the airport? When do you want me to, which store do you want me to get it from? Do we answer that way? Or, when they ask us, for something where, we have one of those responses like, oh, there's nobody else that can do it. My friends are coming over. I was looking forward to hanging out with them. Is there nobody else that could clean? Is there nobody else that can go to the store? Is there nobody else can do this? What, coffee? Can't you just make yourself coffee? I mean, it's only just putting some, sugar and water. What, your hands don't work? Rabotai, if we evaluate our own self, whether we honor our parents or not, we'll find that we're not always there. It's okay. Maybe I'm not honoring them like David HaMelech. Maybe I'm not honoring them like Yaakov Avinu. But I'm still nice to them. Are you? Are you polite and gentle and respectful? When they ask you to perhaps do something, are you polite or abrupt? Are you gentle in your response, or once in a while you yell at them? But you figured that, I said I'm sorry, so it's okay. Yeah, if you say I'm sorry because it happens only once in a blue moon, then yeah, I guess, But if you yell at them, 4 out of 5 times, saying I'm sorry is to no avail. When a person evaluates their relationship with their in-laws, they'll see that they're not necessarily always where they need to be, let's just say. Needless to say, when a person evaluates where they're supposed to be with Am Yisrael, their community, their rabbi, their kids, their spouse, the different people that they know at work, they'll see that, maybe I'm not a Torah scholar, but I'm polite usually, and I'm gentle and respectful. Were you gentle and respectful when you were cursing that guy out that cut you off in the highway? Were you gentle and respectful when the teller behind the counter gave you an answer you didn't want to hear, and you made sure that her mother heard your voice also, even though she wasn't in that city? Were you gentle and respectful when the bank teller told you that the check didn't clear and there was a clerical error, and due to that, you have a problem with this company, and you told her that gently and politely how much you were upset? You were gentle and polite? Were you gentle and polite when your kids perhaps came home with a report card that's not exactly to your likings, and even a haircut that's not to your likings? Were you gentle and polite in your response that they learned the lesson, and they're not going to do it again, or you were not so much? If we really evaluate, Rabotai, we'll see that even the basics that we all take for granted, we sometimes fail. Sometimes we see people get angry and we say, what is he angry about? Sometimes we see people sad. I say, why would you get so sad about that? Sometimes we see people really confused, and you're baffled. How did I not get it? It's so clear. But do we do the same thing ourselves? Now you could easily say, everybody should know that there is a God that runs the world. But do you always think that? Everybody should have emunah and should keep mitzvot. Do you always do that? Should stop talking in prayer. Do you always keep quiet in prayer? Meaning, Rabotai, do we dish out both ways to ourselves and also to others? Do we embody the things we say and lead by example? Do we tell people to have emunah and we also? Do we tell people learn and we do too? Do we tell people be nice, be friendly, love Am Yisrael, love Hashem, and we also? Not always. We all fail. And we all have to work on it. Because that is the minimum requirement from every human being, to at least not be a hypocrite. Now, this doesn't mean that a person should be quiet, practically turn himself or herself into a mute, and never tell anybody else any constructive criticism ever again. The point is to remind us that all of the constructive criticism we give others, and more, has to come towards ourselves first. And even the things that are simple, common sense, politeness, being nice to people, respectful, honoring parents that everybody in society agrees is a requirement, even having respect to our kids and knowing how to give them the proper chinuch. There are times where you have to speak to them sternly, even give them a little flick. And there are times where just sitting next to them and giving them a hug is the only thing you can do and should do. There are times you should play with them and act like a fool just like they do. And there are times you should take things seriously and tell them that it's enough. There are times that you have to be a listening ear to your spouse, even though you're really not interested in anything they have to say. And do it with a smile too. And there are times that you have to tell them, listen, I have to go back to learning Torah. There are times that you can cure an ailment by simply being a listening ear. And there are times that you can cure an ailment by telling them to just stop the nonsense because they're not going in the right direction. Truth is critical, but there's also a time and a place for it. The one place that it's constantly required is with ourselves. With others, most of the time, but not all. There are times that you can't necessarily be 100% truthful with people. Why? It would hurt them at that time, at that place. You have to wait for a better time and a better place. But with yourself, you always have to be honest. You always have to reflect and see, where do I really stand? Do I do what I say? Or am I a hypocrite? If you see that your mindset is constantly agreeing with wicked people, you should know you are one of them. That honesty is required because it'll save your life or destroy it. It'll save your life if you take that into heart and you change. It'll destroy it if you ignore it and say, nah, come on, just because I like wicked people doesn't mean that I'm wicked. Well, it does. You see, when a person is concerned about Klal Yisrael, at least as much as he or she is concerned about themselves, then the stories that you'll hear will make more and more sense to you. But if they don't, or if they just seem too far for you, don't lose hope. We are all obligated to think of our forefathers and say, when will my actions be like theirs? Rabbi Ephraim went to a yeshiva in Petach Tikva when he was younger, under the teachings of a big tzaddik, Rav Baruch Shimon Salomon, alav shalom. And Rav Baruch Shimon Salomon was a big tzaddik, ish emet, without skipping a beat. And at the time, there was a election for mayor, one secular Israeli that had no problem eating non-kosher food, desecrating Shabbat, and had an intention to bring more desecration of Shabbat to the city. And it was a religious guy trying to run. And of course, there were some brown-nosers that kissed up to the secular guy because they figured that if they kiss up to him, he'll give them some buildings and some land once he becomes mayor. And unfortunately, some of those people were rabbis that kissed up to him. But Arav Solomon was a Ish Emet that protested and put his life on the line just for the sake of getting Jews to keep Shabbat. And taught our own dear Rav Ephraim to think and do the same. Now, when this election was going on, Arav Solomon was supportive of the religious Jew. But then a picture came out and an ad, and that picture showed this religious Jew that was trying to run for mayor, shown in such a way that his kippah suddenly lost its way and went to the back of his head. So from the picture, you couldn't tell he was wearing one. And without skipping a beat, Rav Solomon rebuked this person with roar that he'll remember till this day. How can you do that? Were you embarrassed of being a Jew? Who are you trying to emulate? The secular people? The Reshaim? And surely he was right. And surely HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed. And surely the secular person that was at least honest about his false beliefs ended up winning. Now, many people continued to kiss up to this politician, but not Rav Solomon. And even one day when time passed and this politician really wanted that Arav Baruch Shimon Solomon would shake his hand in camera and make peace, because it was a very public war. He was the head rabbi of the city. He was the mayor. So it was two very big people, very big disagreement, and they orchestrated that they would meet. And Rav Baruch Shimon Solomon was barely able to shake his hand. Literally, he tapped his fingers as if he has AIDS / corona / cancer that's infectious by simply touching a finger. That's how much he did, dreaded touching this guy. So even the shaking of the hand was barely. But that was good enough for this mayor. He wanted any positive attention he can, even if it's fake. Nonetheless, the pictures were taken, and then one of the people that like to kiss up to anybody decided to make their foolish suggestion. Let's give the mayor l'chaim, and got a glass of wine to go bring it to the mayor, the secular mayor. And Rav Baruch Shimon Solomon did not skip a beat and said, no, don't give him anything. Don't give him anything. Don't give him anything l'chaim. All right. He said, Mechalel Shabbat. Don't give him any wine. Needless to say, Rav Baruch Shimon Solomon never got the building, never got the land. But he did get Olam Haba for sanctifying HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name and standing for the Emet. Knowing who to be nice to and when to be nice to them. Knowing who to be nice to and when to be nice to them. You can't be nice to everybody all the time, because sometimes that niceness is literally evil. When you have people that are desecrating the Torah, desecrating Shabbat, desecrating Hashem's name on a regular basis, and you think that being friends with them, acting as if it's all okay, not telling them that they need to change in whatever way you want. You can tell them through a video, through a audio, through a few words of Torah, through a rebuke, through a story, but needless to say, telling them something, and not just pacifying them and making them believe as if their few good acts and their few decent behaviors are okay, and they don't need to do tshuva. Being nice to them and, in essence, enabling them to continue their wicked ways is the most evil thing that you can do. It's the most evil thing that you could do. It's not Ahavat Yisrael. It's not loving Am Yisrael. When you sometimes see these people that call themselves rabbis that show up to mixed dancing weddings that are Chilul Hashem and literally a disaster in the making, and something that brings tragedies to Am Yisrael. And you see rabbis show up to the chuppah and kiddushin and even stay sometimes for the event itself while people are dancing, boys and girls are dancing together with each other, and you see rabbis show up to these types of things, that's not Ahavat Yisrael. That's hating Am Yisrael. That's hating Am Yisrael. When you see people, like some of these wicked people, that say, no, telling people about punishment and rebuke, that's not the way. Bring them with love. That's not Ahavat Yisrael. That's evil. It's evil. Don't think about it twice. It's evil. It's 100% evil. To simply eliminate parts of the Torah, especially the parts like reward and punishment, is not Ahavat Yisrael. It's hating Am Yisrael. To tell people, I'll accept you no matter how you are, that's not loving them. That's hating them. Why? Because anyone with a brain in their head and experience to go along with it knows that the world doesn't work that way. If you do bad things eventually happen to you, both in this world and the world after. There's no question that those that do evil will have evil come upon them. And there's no question that the same God that wrote the Torah, that made all the miracles for us, is the God that said that there is reward and punishment, and those people that are homosexuals, intermarried with Jew and Gentile, they're committing adultery, they're wasting seed, they're desecrating Shabbat, they're not eating kosher, they're corrupting their business, they're simply evil, stingy, bad, and so on. Those people will get punished severely. Severely, Rabotai. And anyone that says, no, we don't like to talk about punishment, everyone is good, Hashem is going to forgive everyone, that's not Ahavat Yisrael. That's hating Am Yisrael. Why? Because just like if you saw your own child about to jump off of the cliff, about to stick their finger into an electric socket, about to run into moving traffic, about to fall and lay down on the train tracks while the train is coming just to see what's going to happen, about to do all types of dangerous things, just like you staying there and doing nothing intentionally while you can is evil, so is watching your brothers and sisters destroy their eternity and do nothing about it when you can is also evil. It's not Ahavat Yisrael. Ahavat Yisrael, Rabotai Yekarim, is when you care about the well-being of Am Yisrael both physically and spiritually. Both physically and spiritually, no less than you care about yourself. You want to go to heaven, you should want them to go to heaven no less than you want yourself to go to heaven. Even if you don't know them, even if you know them and don't like them, if you want to emulate Hashem, you're not going to be looking for just people that you know to help. You're not going to be looking for just people that are your best friends to help. You're going to look for anyone you can that's part of Am Yisrael and do whatever you can to help them get closer to Hashem. Help them serve Hashem. Sometimes helping them serve Hashem is simply giving them a few words of truth that you see in this shiur and other shiurim. Sometimes it's to tell them about the stories of the sages, of our forefathers. Sometimes it's giving them a meal. It depends. But if you see that you gave them a meal and 2 meals and 5 meals and they've been eating at your house already for a year, but they're still driving on Shabbat, that means the meal in itself is not working. If anything, it's pacifying them to make them think that they're doing enough. Which means that your help is not help, but rather it's enabling them to continue their sinful ways. And it's not love anymore. Continuing that way is evil. A person needs to evaluate themselves with a fine-tooth comb to see, do you really love Am Yisrael or not? Rav Karelitz, Rav Nisim Karelitz, Alav Shalom. Once somebody knocked on his door, and he opened the door and he sees that it's his neighbor from across the road. The neighbor looks flustered. He says, Kvod Harav, I'm sorry, I have a problem I had to bring to the rabbi because what can we do? We have to tell the truth. Yeah, what can we do? What happened? He says, listen, Kvod Harav, you guys painted and apparently used too much paint and it went into the sewage, which ended up causing us a blockage in our house. And that blockage was very problematic. We had to bring the company, we had to fix it. And listen, it cost us 600 shekels to fix it. And I don't know, the Rav knows what's Din Torah. I think you should compensate me. Rav Karelitz, without skipping a beat, went, got 600 shekels, and paid the man on the spot. The neighbor was very happy. He said, thank you for the Rav, appreciate it, and left. One of the Talmidim of Rav Karelitz was there. He said, Kvod Harav, how come you didn't, why did you just pay him? Why didn't you argue at least? A few things. Why did you just decide that he deserves exactly what he wants? He paid 600, you have to give him everything. How did you arrive at that? Rav Karelitz says, in fact, I had 3 reasons to justify me not paying him. The first one was that the paint that he's talking about is liquid. And we all know that paint does not cause plumbing issues in the sewage. Number 2, he lives across the street. And that means that the sewage systems that comes from our house, from our floor, at no point whatsoever could ever connect to the sewage system that he has in his building across the road. Number 3, we didn't paint the house. So now the student is even more confused. So hold on a second. So why did you pay him then? Not only is it 1, 2, but even 3, you didn't even paint the house. So why did you pay him? Rav Karelitz says something that only someone that wants to love Am Yisrael can understand. It's a very cheap price to buy a good neighbor. 600 shekels is cheap to buy a good neighbor. Why should I argue with him? If I argue with him and I tell him number 1, number 2, number 3, surely part of him is going to doubt it, disagree with it. Forever and ever will always look at me in a certain way. Maybe this, maybe that. Or I could just simply say, oh, here you go, it's 600 shekels, that's it, solve the problem. Now we're best friends. Every time he sees me, he's going to smile. Why? We have no problems between us. And that, it's worth it. It's worth it. Sometimes a person needs to go to a bed din to resolve his problems. You have issues with somebody. But sometimes a person needs to do a din with himself to see, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Sometimes you have to fight for the sake and the honor of the Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. Like what we're doing with these missionaries, Yimach Shemo v'Zichro. Every lawyer that we've spoken to said, oh, listen, why don't you just settle with them? I told him, listen, no settling will ever happen. He says, what if they told you settle by just removing the video? I said, 0 settling will ever happen. We will never settle with them. Why? They're desecrating Hashem's name. They're enemies of Hashem. Us settling with them in any fashion whatsoever is a desecration of Hashem's name. We will never settle. Why? This is not a financial battle. This is a spiritual battle. Much, much more valuable than any amount of money in the world. When a person has a legitimate Torah reason to fight, you have to fight tooth and nail. When a person knows that this is not something to fight for, then the Torah will tell you not to fight. But you have to know when to and when not to. When to love and to give kaf schut, benefit of the doubt, have patience and so on, and when there's simply no patience allowed. In Parashat Balak, we see Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen kill Zimri and Cosby in a horrific way. Such a way that literally the Midrash, the Gemara, the Chachamim discuss it with details. Literally you feel it, you see it, and it's a horrific way. And then he literally, after putting the spear through their organs while they're in the act, he lifts them miraculously and waves it like a flag, showing it to all of Am Yisrael. This gruesome scene was a Kiddush Hashem. Now, if one of these fakers would tell you, no, maybe you should have benefit of the doubt, you're not Pinchas, well, let's see. If loving everybody unconditionally was really a reality that we're supposed to do, no matter what, then let's see if we could apply that with Pinchas. If Pinchas would have said, you know what, maybe Zimri doesn't know he's not allowed to be with a Goya. So he's sinning, but it's like accidental because he doesn't know. Or maybe she converted already, we just don't know about it. Or maybe they're not really going into the tent to do anything. Maybe he's teaching her for conversion. Maybe they're even reading Tehillim together. You know, they're praying, he's trying to give her chizuk because he wants to get married to her. Maybe she's just a Talmidah of his. Maybe he's just, being nice to the nations. You have to be light to the nations. You just be nice to the girl. Why? Maybe this, maybe that. If Pinchas would have said maybe, we would not be here. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu said at the beginning of Parashat Pinchas that he was already in the process of destroying Am Yisrael, that if it wasn't for Pinchas, we wouldn't be here, chas v'shalom. Where there are times to give benefit of the doubt, to be patient, and then there are times where you have to act. Only the Torah will guide you when and how. Because if you listen to your emotions or even your logic, you're bound to make irreparable mistakes, where you can think that you being zealous was the right thing, but in reality you embarrassed an innocent person in public. Your ambition was really stealing money from Gentiles or Jews. Both are not only forbidden according to the Torah as far as stealing, but also desecration of Hashem when you're stealing from a non-Jew. Your ambition was prohibition. Your love also earned you karet, because you showed love to somebody you're not allowed to show love to. Whether it's your girlfriend, your boyfriend, somebody else's wife. All of these things have to be measured in accordance to the Torah. When a person analyzes these things, he can start seeing, so the difference between Arav Karelitz's me and me is not that he can make decisions that I can't. But rather, he already learned enough Torah that his opinion of the Torah became his only opinion. Whereas we are striding to at least have the opinion of the Torah, even if it requires us thinking for a week. When a person starts listening to the words of the sages, they'll see that there's really not much confusion to be had if a person simply dedicated as much energy into learning Torah as they do into doing all of the other things they're not supposed to do. Now, many times people spend a lot of effort looking at what's happening in the world news. instead of looking at the news, I can tell you the news of the future. Tehillim 117. Alu et Adonai kol goyim, shabchu kol haumim, ki gavar aleinu chasdo ve'emet Adonai la'olam hallelujah. Praise Hashem, all the goyim, all the nations. Praise Him, all the states, for His kindness has overwhelmed us, and the truth of Hashem is eternal. Hallelujah. It's the shortest Tehillim. Psalm 117. What does it say? What is David HaMelech trying to teach us here? It's a prophecy. What is the prophecy here? David HaMelech says, the praise of Hashem is going to come from the Goyim in the future. The Goyim are going to praise Hashem. Why are the Goyim going to praise Hashem? Because of all the kindness that He did for the Jews. That's what it says here. Now, any normal person will ask a question. Why would the Goyim praise Hashem? I don't need help there, because I can figure. They see, He did good, He's good, and so on. But why are they praising Him for doing good for Am Yisrael? That's confusing. Why? The vast majority of the world is anti-Semitic. Not just because of today's world, but rather because of our Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Esav sonei Yaakov is an halacha. And the end of days is not going to be a pretty picture. Esav and Ishmael are both going to attack Am Yisrael together. It's going to be a horrific battle. But before it, there's going to be many other battles. Gog and Magog is just the last section. But many wars will be beforehand. So the hatred that you see in the streets, the terrorism you see all over, the anti-Semitism in the media, the stuff that's become acceptable today and only a few years ago was unacceptable. Those people will one day praise God because of all of the kindness He gave to Am Yisrael. Says the Rebbe Mibrisk, the Brisker Rebbe, why would the nations praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the kindness He showed Am Yisrael? Why? Because only the anti-Semitic, only the haters of Am Yisrael, only the Reshaim Arurim that wanted to terrorize you as often as possible, only they and HaKadosh Baruch Hu know how much damage they wanted to cause and how often they wanted to cause it. And only they know how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved us even when we were sleeping, even when we thought He wasn't there, even when we thought there's tragedy among us and it can't get any worse. Little do we know that it was supposed to be much worse. Only the haters, the enemies, the wicked know how much kindness HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for His children, because those evil ones were the same ones that HaKadosh Baruch Hu kept stopping, kept making their plans foil, kept making them fail over and over again. They wanted to go with automatic weapons in the street to kill thousands. He says, I'll give you 4. We're crying, crocodile tears, horrible, you're right. Every Jew is worth the whole world. But do you understand how bad it was supposed to be? Do you understand how bad it was supposed to be? The tunnels the Arabs built, literally tunnels, the entire cities under Israel. Do you know how much damage this was supposed to be? The weapons of the Iranians, the weapons of the Iraqis, the weapons of all of these Amalekim. Do you understand how much damage was supposed to be? All of these different people that are constantly conspiring on a daily basis to destroy Israel, to destroy the Jews, even some of them being Jewish, And yet behind the destruction of the Jewish people and the Torah and the physical and the spiritual, they know how much damage they want to cause. And they also know how HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps ruining their plans. So the kindness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for us is only clear for those that know how to see. The same goes when it applies to people and applies to loving Am Yisrael. Knowing whether somebody's truly being kind and loving for Am Yisrael is only something that someone that knows what kindness really is. Only someone that knows how to see kindness. Only someone who knows what the Torah says is kindness. There's a lot of fake kindness. There's a lot of false news out there that is viewed as kindness. All these billionaires saying they're going to donate everything to charity when they die. That was one of the scams that started about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And people still are foolish enough to believe it. They don't realize it's just tax planning. But nonetheless, a person that has the sight of the Torah knows that there are things that are clear only to some people that look from the perspective of the Torah. And there are certain things that you'll have the majority of people think, yeah, you're right, this is the way it's supposed to be, and take it for granted and think that somebody else is doing the job, not realizing that nobody else is. You have a situation right now, Rabotai, where there's a lot of confusion out there about what is the job of everybody. And you have people from the Jewish world investing an enormous amount of energy and efforts helping strangers, while their own neighbors are starving both physically and spiritually. People think that they are doing mitzvot by leaving their houses and going to help the Ukrainians. And the horrible stories continue to come in. Worst one yet is a husband that suddenly saw his wife become a Hasidah who needed to go to Ukraine to help the victims there. Leaving behind her husband and 5 kids, coming back after a few weeks, but already in a hurry to go back. And her husband said it doesn't make any sense. I mean, yeah, she was a decent woman, but where did this urge come from all of a sudden? He didn't believe it. And he followed her. Followed why she's leaving her 5 kids and husband to go to Ukraine and help a bunch of strangers. And to his dismay, is following her and her phone calls and her conversations and messages led him to find out that she developed a relationship with some goy in Ukraine, and she was looking forward to going back to see him. Surely he went, took her to the Beit Din, got a divorce right away. But nonetheless, she thought it was a mitzvah to go to Ukraine. People think that whatever feels good is a mitzvah, and it's not always the case. You have to look at the Torah compass much more often than you look at your own moral compass. Because your moral compass sometimes is being steered by magnets from the Satan himself. And unless a person has studied an enormous amount of Torah to already have Da'at Torah instilled within them, like Rav Karelitz, like the Chazon Ish, like the Gaon of Vilna, like these Chachamim, you'll see that many times our own inner compass is bringing us to the wrong direction. We have to constantly evaluate things. We have to measure ourselves. And this is one of the things that we can't just teach, we have to learn. We have to push. We have to do whatever we can to constantly improve. Because it's the things that seem easy. It's the things that seem obvious that they get us at. Last but not least, something that I mentioned in the beginning of the shiur that is our own test. Test of our emunah, test of our own bitachon, test of our own love for Am Yisrael. Because surely the haters, the naysayers, the heretics, and anyone that we've exposed in the past have a lot of wonderful things to say about us and how we scare people and how we hate people and how we do all these things. Interestingly enough, we never see any of those people help anybody else but themselves. We never see them publicize anyone but themselves, help anyone but themselves. While Baruch Hashem, our Torah has helped us become vessels to help countless people, both physically and spiritually. Get married, keep Torah and mitzvot, convert, eat, have mattresses, get divorced at times even when it was necessary. All types of things. And now, while you have tens of millions of dollars going to Ukraine, supposedly, allegedly, possibly, imaginably, to help a bunch of people, some of which are Jews. I even had one of my dear students who left with his entire family and went from Ukraine to Israel, and Baruch Hashem last week met with Rav Ephraim, and miraculous story, not just the leaving but also the meeting itself. So surely there are good people from there. But not everybody's like that. In fact, not even the majority. Many people are as disconnected from the Torah as you could possibly imagine, and many of them are even against the Torah. Some are even Nazis outright. But yet, the help that's going there from the Jewish world, mainly the Orthodox world, is unbiased, without much consideration for any of the eventual realities that some of these immigration policies will lead to. And people are throwing their money into it, thinking that they're doing right. Now, whether it's all going to be okay or not, we'll see in time. But I can assure you that it doesn't look okay. Not only because of the countless things I've mentioned about it already in this shiur and in others, but also because we have the laws of tzedakah. Laws of tzedakah, halachot regarding tzedakah. And everyone knows that when it comes to tzedakah, you have to help your own house first. Meaning, if there is somebody poor outside, but your parents are poor, your kids are poor, you have to help your own family first. Yeah, it's sad that the other person is poor too, but you have to help your own house first. And when you have over 1 million children in Eretz Yisrael that we know about, that go to sleep hungry every night, when you have the financial situation of the religious and non-religious world in Israel deteriorate in the worst way we've seen in years, where prices have gone up so much, many people are simply electing not to buy 30 or 40% of the stuff that they used to be able to buy. People are simply not able to afford it. Where you have working people calling us and asking us for help because despite their job not changing, the costs have changed so much that their job can no longer afford it. So you have so much going on, so much struggling going on in Israel itself, in the frum communities, in the religious communities you can rely on, that you know these people are telling the truth. You know these people have Yirat Shamayim. You know these people are learning Torah. You know these people are not just hanging out there and choosing to be poor. They work, they learn, they do everything they possibly can, but nonetheless they're still struggling. Some are struggling with big families, some are struggling with sick kids, some are struggling with sick parents, some are struggling because of their own sicknesses. And the horror stories literally are pouring in like a flood. The pictures that we get to see, may your eyes never see such pictures. The stories we hear, may your ears never hear these stories. And I tell this to you because I'm telling you, you simply would melt from pain. So when we have so much poverty, struggling, people have no idea how they're going to afford to buy matzah for Pesach. Forget about meat, chicken. We have one Avrech that we just met, hasn't bought a piece of clothing in 15 years. 15 years hasn't bought a piece of clothing. Other families we just met, the kids were outside begging for change because they wanted to buy crembo, some candy, some snack that cost $2, $1 or something like that, or less. The struggling is so severe, but I don't see many rabbis raising tens of millions of dollars at all. Yeah, surely there's money going and there's money being helped, and surely there's a lot of great help coming, especially during this time of the year. Kimcha the Pischa shows us how many tzaddikim are still left in the world, where you have, Baruch Hashem, a lot of people helping. But when you compare that to what we're giving to, I can't even call them cousins, because of the history Ukraine has, it just begs the question, what the heck are we doing? Yeah, you could always say, yeah, but we're helping the Jewish people there. Are you sure you're only helping them? Because, I don't know, last time I checked, doing a mitzvah, it's not supposed to be that easy. How is it that you raise so many tens of millions of dollars for that, but to go and start a yeshiva, to go and help poor people, to go and do all the things that we're all obligated to do since the beginning of time, literally, you're lucky if somebody donates $1,000. You're like, oh, Chazaku Baruch, blessings from here till next year. Mishe Barach, Avotenu Kedoshim, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron. You have to send them a blessing that's literally half the Chumash because they donated 4 figures. And not just once, quarterly. Not the donation quarterly, the blessing quarterly. Oh, and if you don't call them, oh, the donation, I'm not donating again. How is it that there are so many Jews that are frum, Yirat Shamayim Jews, Kollel Jews, Yeshiva Jews, Jews that are Jews, don't have food to eat? And yet, $40,000 a bus, easy to get. Literally, there's more money than there's buses. How is it? How is it that's the case? Anyone that learned enough knows something's wrong. Because of that, Rabotai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending us different warning messages. The terrorists are upping the ante. The disease, the government, the problems, upping the ante. Everything is getting worse. It's not because we're doing great. Shlomo HaMelech thought he was doing great. Shlomo HaMelech was Kodesh Kodeshim. Shlomo HaMelech had, if we could just simply understand the magnitude of his Kedusha and his wisdom, we see that just his throne was beyond our comprehension. Shlomo HaMelech's throne was something that is impossible for anybody else in the world to build. You had 72 lions and eagles in gold that would move, fly. Every step he would take, there would be like a bat kol, like a voice, a heavenly voice come out, saying different biblical statements such as, don't pervert justice, don't accept bribery, don't show preference of judgment, don't plant a tree for idol worship, don't erect a multi-stone altar for the service of Hashem. All types of biblical statements as he's taking steps on his throne that's surrounded by the Sanhedrin. The wisdom that Shlomo HaMelech had was impossible for us to understand. But yet, on the day that they celebrated the opening of the Bet HaMikdash, the grand, biggest, greatest event, the greatest Bet Mikdash, the Bet Mikdash that Shlomo HaMelech did not drink wine for 7 years until it was built. Literally fasting, having a certain fast for 7 years until this Bet HaMikdash is built. The holiness of Shlomo HaMelech was unbelievable. But yet something simple was overlooked. The Midrash says in Parashat Shmini that on the same day that Shlomo HaMelech celebrated with Am Yisrael the grand opening of the first Bet HaMikdash, he also celebrated his wedding. His wedding to another wife who was the daughter of Paro. Chachamim teach us that Shlomo HaMelech tried marrying each one of the princesses from all of the nations after converting them to Judaism because he wanted to bring Mashiach. And this was a way that he thought would bring world peace by everyone becoming Jewish. So he married each one of their princesses. And along the way came the princess from Egypt. And after converting, after saying she believes in the God of Israel, there was the wedding. Shlomo HaMelech thought, let's mix the party. We have the party of the Bet HaMikdash. We have the party of the wedding. Says the Midrash, Midrash Rabbah, Parashat Shmini, Parashat Yubet, פרק ה' אמר רבי יהודן כל אותן 7 שנים שבנה שלמה בית המקדש לא שתה בהן יין. Rabbi Reuven says, during all the 7 years that Shlomo was building the Bet HaMikdash, he did not drink wine. However, once he built it and he married the daughter of Paro, he drank wine that night. And there were 2 celebrations were taking place there. His wedding and the grand opening of the Bet HaMikdash. One rejoicing the building of the Holy Temple, one of his marriage. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא של מי יקבל, של אלו או של אלו. Observing these 2 celebrations, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, whose celebration should I accept? The celebration of these or of those? And at that moment, it entered his mind to destroy Yerushalayim. For its written, for this city has aroused my anger. This is in Jeremiah chapter 32, verse 31. It's aroused my anger and my wrath in me. from the day that they built it until this day, so that I should remove it from my presence. What happened here? And it goes further and so on. But in the grand opening of the Bet HaMikdash, the smartest man made a common sense error. He celebrated his wedding on the same day as the celebration of the Torah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu got so angry he wanted to destroy all of Yerushalayim. Why? How could it be that people are celebrating their own house, their own wedding, their own car, their own career, more than my Torah? No, but who says it's more? It has to be more. Why? They like theirs more than they like mine. And he's not even talking about Shlomo. He's talking about the people that are going to the party because surely they want to please the new princess. Forgetting that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is greater than all of the things you could possibly imagine. If Shlomo HaMelech, as wise as he was, as holy as he was, can make a common sense error, needless to say, we can also. So the way that we figured out so far that we can help ourselves is to constantly do a self-accounting. Constantly do self-accounting as a result of learning Torah to see how our relationship is with Hashem, how our relationship is with Am Yisrael, how our relationship is with the world around us, our spouse, our kids, our co-workers, our community, and so on. But remember, we said that we have both spiritual and physical concerns, material concerns. So we can't just continue complaining about how people are not doing enough. We have to do more ourselves. So as part of our own test, each year we do a Kimcha de Pischa. Each year we do a Kimcha de Pischa, and Baruch Hashem, we try to help a lot of people. But we don't know how much we're going to raise and if we're going to raise. What we do know for sure is that there are more problems today than any other time I've ever seen. Now that may be just because we've gotten more popular and there's more people watching us, or that just simply may be because the situation is as dire as can possibly be. And because of that, we couldn't really wait like we waited in the past and we planned in the past, and we decided that we have to take action. But take action that's more significant than any other time, because, like I said, the situation is warranting it. And therefore, we contacted and signed a contract with the supermarket chain Rami Levi, like we did last year. But unlike last year where we bought $100,000 worth of cards to help thousands of people, we took a step further and we put pretty much everything we have in reserves. We sent $250,000, and this is the contract with Rami Levi. It's going to be about a little over 800,000 shekels that is going there, or went there already. This is the contract. This is the bank wire. And this is the other bank wire. And the reason why there's two bank wires, and I had to do this over the last 24 hours, is because we're running out of time, and we need to make sure this gets there with enough time to distribute it before the holiday. And when I went to the bank, they wanted to charge 40,000 shekels in exchange fee, which is about $15,000. So we found another way to do it a little cheaper for only 8,000 shekels, so about $2,000, $3,000 by doing it this way that I did. So anyway, you have a $250,000, almost 1,000,000 shekels, 800,000 shekels or so, that's already contracted, that's already going, that's already bought, that's already paid for as of today. This is everything I've done over the last 24 hours. And I have no idea if any of you want to be partners. If you want to be partners with for the whole thing, you want to be partners for a small part. If you don't want to be partners at all, those were some of the thoughts we couldn't consider. We couldn't consider if anybody's going to contribute, and we couldn't consider if anyone else is going to care, just simply because the makom she'en ish tishtadel liyot ish. It's our obligation to be leaders when there is no leaders. It's our obligation to hear about what our forefathers did and say, when will my actions be like theirs? Now, my actions will never be like theirs, but we can at least try to get better. Last year we took a risk of 100,000 shekels and $100,000, and some people contributed, some people didn't, but nonetheless, Baruch Hashem, a lot of people ate. This year we're taking it a step much, much further, simply because the need is there, and there is a principle in the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaches the prophet Job, Mi ekdimani v'ashalem, who did me a favor first and I'll pay him back. Meaning that there's no way that a person can ever lose by doing the will of Hashem. Does that mean that it's always going to be net profitable or monetarily? Not necessarily. But what it will be is it'll be profitable spiritually. It'll always be profitable as far as your servitude of Hashem. And this is one of the things that I'm proud of, because although it's a very, very big test, it's one of those things which says, okay, at least we had the merit to give, our emunah muscles a test. And it's important for each one of us to do the same. Where when we evaluate whether we care about Am Yisrael, we can't just evaluate whether we care about them spiritually, because that usually can be done for free or for cheap or indirectly. We also have to care about them materially. And this money could easily feed a 10,000 people, maybe less, 8,000 people. But definitely it's something that we need to do. I wish we had the $50 million and $100 million they had for Ukraine to feed people. But nonetheless, the point is that everybody has to do something. This is one of the ways that we're trying to lead by example, where we're not an organization that has $50 million or anywhere near close to it. But we are an organization that had this money in the bank, and we figured if we have it and we don't need it this second, surely other people need it right now. What will we do when the bills come for other things and the responsibilities for other things? Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent this money, he'll send other money. Now, rationally, makes no sense. Financially, makes no sense. Anybody else do this? I have never heard of it. Is it the right thing to do? 100%. Why? Because we have to show Am Yisrael that we love them. Not just by saying words, and not just by taking safe bets. Sometimes you have to do things that show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you believe in Him. So this is something that we can celebrate together. Whether you contribute or not is irrelevant. We took under the we're under the impression that no one will contribute a single dollar. If people end up contributing $10 million, by all means, great, fantastic. But if they don't, that won't change anything. Why? Because at least we did what we could, and we can teach what we can teach from it. And Be'ezrat Hashem, the people will have no less of a respectable Pesach than we do. And that in itself is all the reward in the world, all the profit in the world you can possibly get. If you compare that to actions we've done in the past, I believe it's an upgrade. If you compare that to the actions that you're doing, you'll know what the solution, where you're at and where this is at. If you compare that to where the wicked people are, surely you can see that none of them, not a single one of them, that have 1,000% more money than we do, None of them are doing any of this. None of them are helping anybody but their own pockets, their own popularity, their own name, and so on and so forth. Why? Because there's a difference. When you are there to help Am Yisrael get closer to Hashem, then number one job is them, their well-being, not yours. When you are there to build a so-called brand, to build a so-called company, then the number one mission is to help yourself. Hence the reason of why they call themselves the number one rabbi on YouTube, and the this and all these other different titles that they give themselves. And again, this is not a insult for the sake of insult, but rather insult for the sake of education. To know the difference between right and wrong, to know the difference between kasher and tameh, to know the difference between words and actions. Everybody can say, I love Am Yisrael. What are you doing to show it? Are you doing, somebody could say, I donated $5 million. No problem. Where did you donate it to? How did you donate it to? If you donated it to go buy some more tanks, doesn't show love of anything other than you. But if you care enough about Am Yisrael, that you care that they will get closer to Hashem spiritually, as well as materially, by all means, chazak u'baruch, chazaka u'bucha. This, Rabotai, is my chizuk for myself. Hopefully you got some chizuk out of it as well. There were some other things I wanted to discuss with you, but perhaps we'll see each other again tomorrow and learn some more tomorrow about Moshe Rabbeinu, about Pesach a little bit, why we do it, how do we do it, what does it really mean to be humble, what does it really mean to serve Hashem without any self-interest. Perhaps we'll learn that tomorrow, so we'll give everybody enough time to digest what they got today. Thanks again for learning with me. Hashem bless each and every single one of you, at least for trying, at least for learning. And Be'ezrat Hashem, this too will give each one of us chizuk to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.